some signs that company culture is starting to erode or become toxic? How can you notice that before it becomes a big thing, and how do you fix it? How do you get in its way of spreading? Chiyoko.
So first thing, there's clear signs to me. So number one is people being disengaged, people losing their passion, and really kind of people not wanting to go over and above the call of duty. Because I find when you have a strong culture, people, again, when I said I would do anything. So when people just don't take that extra effort and they don't want to be accountable, like they're not taking ownership of things, that's when I think that those are kind of signs that you need to do a little bit of a gut check and kind of do a little bit more probing to see what's going on.
That's awesome.
Does that answer your question?
Very much. Tynan.
Yeah, for me, it boils down to frustration. And I think Judy, would be the person to go to really understand your own self, right? That emotional intelligence bit. But if you can sense your frustration and then also sense that of those around you, that's a really great starting place to know, okay, when there's heightened frustration, even a little bit of frustration, that's such a good place to know, okay, why is that there? And then the flip side of it is just, the other sign is that if you can't deal with that frustration, if you feel you can't either have the conversation, or if the conversation happens where you're like, hey, I'm frustrated with this. Hey, this isn't going well for me. And that conversation isn't well received. That's also a pretty telltale sign you have some work to do. And I mean, it's really common, but I've continually find, especially, when we go back to the leader versus employee thing, that this is really challenging when you have a lot of leadership teams around the world right now that still really feel like nobody can come to them and say, hey, here's what I need from you. I'm noticing that when you lead this way, it affects the team. Very few employees globally, there's not a large proportion of the employee base that isn't in a leadership level that feels comfortable going to leaders with that type of thing. And I still really feel like in this day and age, those companies will slowly die out, because we're seeing that when companies do have that type of leadership structure where even, I'm sure I can just tell about Kyoko that you're the type of leader that if somebody from Victoria or somewhere that you barely see them and they're like, hey, you said this the other day, it really, I knew it hurt somebody, I know you would receive that well. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for telling me. There's very few leaders that will do that, but that is a telltale sign, the flip, that culture is really strong.
That's awesome. And Judy.
Okay, I'm going to give you an acronym, self-awareness. So I'm going to go back to what I said before. Things are starting to fall apart when people are in bed. There's blame, excuses dressed up as really good reasons, and busy is a very good reason, or excuse dressed up as a reason. And there's defensiveness and denial. So listen to yourself. Are you in bed? And then the other thing is sit around a table. Are people attacking, like when groups start to attack people and not problems, or they polish problems that never get a plan, then your culture's falling apart. So my favorite term is, what problem are we polishing today, folks? Because what it does, the more problems we polish, the more bed behavior shows up. But you flip it around. Your culture's okay when you hear people saying, I am, I can, and I will.